The arm positions itself, and Dave will retrieve an articulating portable foot restraint, or APFR, and he installs that on the end effector of the SSRMS. You can see some video footage of Dave taking this foot restraint and attaching it to the end of the arm. The arm takes Dave over to the ICC VLD. And he's going to be removing the space-to-ground antenna, or SGANT. He undoes a bolt, and the arm takes him up and away and takes him over to the external stowage platform 3, where he installs it. The biggest challenge for this ORU is protecting the SGANT dish from contact along the way. So Tom Marshburn provides additional eyes to help in the clearance. Once that ORU is installed on ESP3, the arm takes Dave back to the ICC VLD, where he and Tom remove the pump module, which is the largest of the 2JA ORUs at about 1,300 pounds. And he lifts that off of ICC VLD. The arm takes him from there over to ESP3. And he holds that in place while Tom drives the attachment bolt. Dave then goes back to the ICC VLD to retrieve the linear drive unit, which is a spare for the mobile transporter. Since the other ORUs have been removed and the LDU is the smallest, Dave can do this by himself before he gets up to ESP3. So Dave needs to clear the SGANT dish when he brings it in, and at this point you can kind of see that at Dave's waist, the antenna dish there, and also a scuff plate, and Tom provides clearance for that. From that point, the crew translates, cleans up the arm, and heads over to the Jeff, where they will remove multi-layer insulation and a cable and a launch restraint from the vision equipment, or jacks a camera. They'll undo some bolts and take that camera and move it to a forward stanchion location. Once that's in place, Dave and Tom return to the airlock for the end of EVA2. In between EVA2 and EVA3, the GEM-ES is taken out of the payload bay and attached to the Jeff for the beginning of EVA3, and I'd like to show my EVA3 video at this time. So, and on this EVA, Dave Wolf and Chris Cassidy head out to the Jeff. Dave will install some on-orbit installed handrails while Chris prepares the JAXA payloads for transfer. In this case, he removes multi-layer insulation from the Inter-Orbit Communication System Exposed Facility, which is the ICS-EF. He then prepares the Space Environment Data Acquisition Attach Payload, C to AP, by depressing a button there. And then he translates back to the ICS-EF to remove the final multi-layer insulation. He balls these pieces up and jettisons them to save time during this portion. After that's done, Dave and Chris translate out to the end of P6 truss to start the battery removal and replacement. They position articulating portable foot restraints, and they attach a multi-use tether with grapple fixtures as a temporary stowage location for one of the batteries. They install the scoops on the first old battery that they remove, and then they ingress articulating portable foot restraints to remove the first battery. In this video you can see Chris Cassidy holding on to the scoops and pulling the battery out off of the integrated electronics assembly, the IEA. The crew makes sure that the battery is clear. The back side of the battery has some heating baffles that the crew needs to protect as they translate with it. So they keep those away from structure, and they keep a hand on the battery at all times. You can see the battery that is flashing in the video right now is the old battery stowed in a temporary location. At this point, Dave ingresses his foot restraint, removes a multi-layer insulation, installs scoops on that battery, and then removes it. They hand it between the two of them. Chris ingresses his foot restraint, and they install the new battery into the IEA. You can see the two crew members sliding the battery into its final location. They'll drive two bolts that lock it in place. When that's done, Chris will relocate his foot restraint and install the scoops and remove the next old battery. That gets installed on the ICC VLD. The scoops are removed, MLI is replaced, and at this point, Dave directs the arm to reposition so that he has access to the next new battery. He'll remove the multi-layer insulation, install the scoops on this battery, and take it out, and they'll do the battery shuffle out to its new location on the IEA. At that point, Chris relocates his foot restraint, they change the scoop, and the dance continues, taking an old battery off, putting it on the ICC VLD, putting the MLI back in place, and then directing the arm to the next new battery. Once again, Chris relocates his foot restraint into a position to remove the final old battery from the IEA. They hand it between the two of them. Dave directs the arm to the next new battery. This is the final new battery to be removed from the ICC VLD on EVA2&3. That gets installed. The last thing that the crew does is remove the temporarily stowed battery, hand it between the two of them, and put it into the ICC VLD. Here I have NBL video of the crew removing the battery from its temporary stowed location and then installing it. At this point, the crew has successfully completed 4 batteries at the end of EVA3. The arm will move out of position to allow the starboard solar array alpha rotary joint to rotate in between EVAs 3 and 4. At the beginning of EVA4, the arm moves back out to position to put the ICC VLD in place for the start of EVA4. So if we can start that video. On EVA4, Chris Cassidy and Tom Marshburn start out right where